February 19th.
Look over here.
Don't get my butt.
No, I don't do anything.
I can This is Julie's party. We're having a great time here. That's for the night party. How many candles you got in there? I'm not that old. It should be 21, Rocky. She's gonna do this.
Hey, who would like to know you can?
Okay, 1, 2, 3, go!
He didn't confess a third time. He went on a ride with two.
We'll talk about it.
He married her in January 1772, about a 3-day trip from here, and wouldn't you know it, the carriage broke down. Friends weren't home they wanted to stay with, so they pushed on horseback.
It tells you nothing. There's nothing on this road.
Have you folks been through a cave before? What cave are you? Carlsbad. Excellent. So you've been through Carlsbad too? Yeah, that's one I recommend highly. Mammoth Cave, well, Carlsbad really doesn't have to use this. They are magnificent systems. Fully responsible for all the caverns that run through the valley chain here. And there are literally hundreds of thousands of caves in this part of the country. It's often referred to as cave country. A geologist would call an area like this a honeycomb cavern system. Now, in our case, water from that sea could seep directly into the ground and eventually into the bedrock, and it would erode the weakened material in its way, leaving the harder material behind that makes up the sides and the ceiling of the cavern. One thing that water's constantly trying to do is find its lowest point. It's always looking for the water table. Once it receded from this area, it left the cavity that you're now standing in. Now, over the years, the water's entry slowed down considerably. Each droplet of water was allowed to hang at the ceiling and eventually evaporate. Each droplet brought in with it its own share of minerals. Those minerals hang above us today as stalactites. Now, when the water would fall from the stalactite down to the floor or to the side of the cavern, and in this case over here, it happened to catch along the side, again the water would evaporate, minerals were allowed to build up and make stalagmites. Eventually, the stalagmite and the stalactite are going to meet. Once that happens, they make column formations, and there are a few back up in here. Now, this takes an extremely long time. Each of these formations grow at a rate of 1 cubic inch every 120 years. That is a very rough estimation. It's only an average. A little bit later on, I'll show you some formations that grow even slower. Now, are there any questions about cave development or the formations themselves? None at all. Some say it could resemble the natural bridge in the southern end of the Shenandoah Valley. That's a real interesting place. It's a natural stone arch in the middle of everything. It's pretty incredible. One of the natural wonders of the world. I highly recommend it if you ever get the chance to check it out. Now, using our imaginations, one of the useful tools we bring with us into the cavern, you might not realize it, but we've just gone past the cavern fish market over here. Now, with a stretch, some say they could resemble fish hanging on a stringer fresh from the catch. They're so fresh from the catch that they're still wet. What that really means is that they're still growing, they're still alive, still very active. The cavern itself is about 50% active, which is really quite a percentage. You're going to see quite a bit of water today. There are 2 major pools in the cavern, and that's what caves are all about. They're nature's waterway. The first pool takes up 2,500 square feet. It happens to be the largest single body of water in the cavern. The pool will be to our right as we walk up the passageway here. Water depth in a cavern is very deceiving. This pool is going to appear to be fairly deep. In reality, it's only 18 inches deep at its deepest point. What you see in the water is a reflection of the ceiling. The water in this pool lays so still that it acts as a mirror and gives us a perfect reflection. We call the pool Dream Lake, and it's to your right, straight ahead. What do you think, young lady? What do you think, young man? It's anywhere from 70 to 90 feet from the floor of the chasm to the top of the cavern. Eventually, we're going to work our way all the way around the chasm and then through it on that path down below us there, almost to the floor of the chasm. The whole way through, we're going to be viewing the big white formation down there in the center. That's Pluto, named after the Roman god of the underworld. That formation is in remarkable condition. It's been through earth movement, it's been through flooding and reflooding of the cavern, and there's not a mark on it. Now, each time we see the formation, 2 more times before we're done today, we're going to get... We're standing over Skeleton's Gorge here, and when Andrew Campbell was first exploring the cavern, he was on the ledge right across the way here, and he came across what appeared to be the bones of a human. After close examination, come to find out that's exactly what they were, the bones of a young lady no more than 19 years of age. As to how she ended up in the cavern, that's still kind of a mystery. Some speculate she may have been exploring, her torch went out, and she died of exposure right there on the ledge. Highly unlikely. If that had happened, they would have found the entire skeletal system, torch and all, laying right there. They did not. They found mainly bones of the hip and of the leg, only about 20 in all. There are certainly more bones than that in the human skeleton. As to how she ended up in the cavern, it's more likely that she died on the surface and she ended up in, or was buried in, one of the many sinkholes that dot the property up above, and she was washed down into the cavern due to rain and snow. Water into the underground. That probably occurred to the area to our left. The ground opened up and it allowed water into the underground. It would erode and eat away the rock. As it took out the rock, more water took its place. This process happened over and... That's right. That's right. You said this. Yeah. Spelunky. Julie. Down south from us. You were the one that was in Carlsbad, right? No? You never been? Wow. Somebody was. I talked to somebody on the tour. Ah, I see. They didn't want to talk to me anymore. I understand. We've just entered the main body of the cavern. You'll notice we have a lot more headroom and the formations have gotten pretty big. They'll get even larger as we go deeper in. One of the more impressive formations in this corner, over the railing to our left. You see the big white formation? It looks like a frozen waterfall. We call that Titania's Wedding Veil, named after A Midsummer Night's Dream, the Shakespearean play. The formation is technically referred to as flowstone. Just as its name implies, the water was flowing across the wall, depositing minerals. Because the water flows, the minerals can't adhere to the wall as readily as with a stalactite. So it takes longer for flowstone to form than a stalactite. And we're talking roughly an inch every 300 years. Again, we've got a very rough estimation, and it's only an average. Now, we're about to step into a special... ...7 million years of age. Now, we call it our giant redwood, but more often than not, I hear it looks like a shaggy dog. To the left, you can see the head of the dog. There's the front leg. Here's the hind section. Now, to me, I think it looks a little more like a mastodon or a woolly mammoth. There's the trunk.
Oh, right.
down here too long. Stalactite and stalagmite meet squarely in the middle. For that to happen, you have to have perfect water flow. Dr. Halls was very impressed by this, and the cavern very impressed with Dr. Halls. So they dedicated the column to him in 1879. It is an excellent example of drapery formation. Now, so far, we've seen the stalactite, stalagmite, column formation, and flowstone. I have something new here called drapery. The formation begins as flowstone at the top of the tent. Water coming down meets a slanted ceiling. You can see how slanted that ceiling is when you look inside the tent. Water from the flowstone begins to trickle along that slant, and it will weave back and forth depositing minerals. It happens over and over and over again and creates this curtain or drapery effect. The formations are generally very thin, usually no wider than a droplet of water. So thin you can almost look right through them. To the right, we placed a light behind the formation. It might appear to be the massive formation that you see laying on its side here was the ceiling just before Saracen's tent to the left, up in that big empty spot up there. Now, about 7,000 years ago here in the valley, we experienced massive earth movement, unlike anything we've experienced since. Some seismologists and geologists speculate that it probably would have registered a 14 or 15 on the Richter scale. Our current Richter scale only goes up to 12. So we'll probably never see that type of earth movement again. But in one way or another, this earth movement affected all the caverns that run through the valley chain here. Here, it caused that formation to fall from the ceiling. It fell up against the stalagmite that now makes our Leaning Tower of Pisa. That's what made it lean. Then it dropped down into the pit. Now we know that this had to happen at least 7,000 years ago because we have all this growth at the tip of the formation. We have flowstone and we have drapery coming down. Now the formation is estimated to weigh close to 170 tons. It's the last time we know of anything falling from the ceiling in the cavern. As a matter of fact, for something to fall from the ceiling of the cavern, that's the type of earth movement it would take. Here in Virginia, we suffer about 300 earthquakes in a year, but they only register like a 2 or 3 on the Richter scale. We don't even feel that kind of activity. It would take massive earth movement to make something fall. If we were to experience earth movement like that, seismologists and geologists would know about it long before it happened. So for all of you who are looking up going, what if? Really, we have nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
We're going to be honest. Would I lie to you? Come on. We're going to step down into Giant's Hall next. This is the deepest point of the cavern tour. Earlier we saw it from above when we were looking over the banister over at the balcony. And we're going to step down into that hall now. It is the deepest point. Everyone needs to be sure to use the handrails as they come down the hill. As you on the 7 dwarfs walking up the hill. Right below Snow White and Company, I don't know, this one might take a stretch, but I see the top of Pluto the dog's head. Top of the head, the eye, the cheek, the snout. And if you take the whole thing into consideration, it could be one massive turtle. That I have. Floor space-wise, we call it our cathedral. If you came to the cavern back in 1954 or before, it would be just about this point in the cavern tour that your tour guide would whip out his trusty hammer or mallet, and he would begin tapping on the formations, mainly these over here in the corner. Now, if your tour guide had any kind of musical talent, you might be able to eke out Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, or Mary Had a Little Lamb, or something like that. Now, this is not unusual. All cavern formations, because of their central core and structure, will ring out with tone when they're struck. All stalactites do this. It's only natural. Leland Sprinkle attended a tour back in 1954, and he was really intrigued by this. He thought, what if we were to hook up the cavern to a musical instrument? From 1954 through 1957, he set out in search of the properly pitched formations. He found two that were at perfect pitch. They're both in this room here. Other formations were close, but not quite. What he had to do was kind of help him along a little bit. He would do that by sanding down the tip of the formation until he reached the proper pitch, that one in the light area, for example. Then he would hook on his own little invention there. The cylinder, some of you may have noticed earlier, it holds two electric magnets in it and a piston. When the magnets are electrified by touching down a key on the keyboard, they repel one another. That pushes out the piston, which then lightly taps the formation and makes it ring out. Now, for you to hear the organ today, we have a player piano system. The guts of that unit are back behind the organ in another room of the cavern. This is a live performance of the organ, and what we're going to be hearing is America the Beautiful on our great stalagpipe organ. For you to hear the organ at its best, you want to step back towards the center of the room. That's where it's all kind of focused.
I should make a wish.
Now you see the chart above the well there, tells you where the monies have gone. And as soon as you're done making your wish, follow me up the path. Now, the plaque was placed here by the Town Council of Luray, knowing that we have like 500,000 visitors a year. They knew more folks would be able to view the sign and pay tribute to those gentlemen who served their country from Page County. Our next stop on the cavern tour is Stebbins Avenue. As you might recall, it is the final leg of the tour.
Where are you going?
Before you is the reconstructed entrance to the Union Mine, a strange monument to the ingenuity of Lieutenant Colonel Henry Pleasant and the men of the 48th Pennsylvania Infantry. It all began with a Union soldier's offhand remark as he stood looking frustrated at the strong Confederate fortifications a mere 130 yards away. The soldier, a former coal miner, commented that the fort could be blown out of existence if they could run a mine shaft under it. Colonel Pleasants, a mining engineer, seized on the idea and formed a unique and daring plan. A plan to tunnel under and blow up Elliott's Salient, a fort beyond the rise ahead of you. Imagine the hushed excitement as the men from the Pennsylvania coal fields work in shifts around the clock. The extra ration of whiskey is small reward for their labor. Lack of enthusiasm in the high command makes it difficult to get supplies, such as mine timbers to support the roof, or surveying instruments, or even wheelbarrows and the right kind of picks. Other problems are encountered. The slope of the mine has to be changed to avoid a layer of putty-like clay that is almost impossible to dig through. Poor ventilation would stop the work completely. And it is Pleasant's engineering genius which provides a simple but effective remedy. It separates the tunnel entrance from the fireplace. A wooden air duct is laid from outside the tunnel along the floor to the work area. As long as a roaring fire is kept burning, the bad air is drawn up the chimney, and fresh air enters continuously through the duct. 18,000 cubic feet of earth is carried out by hand in cracker boxes. Most of the soil is dumped into the railroad cut 100 yards behind you. It is covered with brush, as the miners worry constantly that the Confederates will discover the plan. It takes nearly a month to finish the 500-foot tunnel and pack the magazines with 4 tons of gunpowder. At 3:30 a.m., July 30th, the fuse is lit. But after an hour of terrible suspense, there is no explosion. 2 men investigate and find the fuse has gone out at a splice. It is relit and the tunnel quickly vacated. Now continue along the path to the crater and hear the story of the explosion and the Federal attack. This is the crater. Here, plans for a quick Union victory turn to tragedy. It is July 30th, 1864. For 4 hours, General Ambrose E. Burnside's 9th Corps has been in position in the approaches and forward trenches of the Federal line. Then at 4:44 a.m., a tremendous explosion shatters the stillness. Men on both sides recoil from the huge column of fire and earth thrown into the air. The blast kills 278 Confederates, and nearly 100 yards of the Southern line simply disappears. Immediately, 165 cannons and mortars roar into action on the hillside behind the Union soldiers, the shells falling in a wide arc to their front. The Union forces surge out of the trenches and up to the breach. But there has been a change in the battle plan. The division of black troops which had trained for a month to lead the assault is not there. On the eve of the attack, Union Generals Meade and Grant withdrew the Black Division to a support role, for fear that if they were sent in first, it would be said that they had been sacrificed. The hastily revised plan still
He doesn't need a letter or anything like that unless you have to say what he's expecting. Okay, thanks, bud.
I saw we had to have a 9-piece video set.
I think, let me see if there's another one.
You know how much they were?
It's over $100.
Well, yeah, I know.
I think it's
Oh, okay.
I'll go get it. It just, if it's all right about me to be registered.
Can you tell me how much it is?
Just around, how much is it? Okay.
This position balances the claim for the 20-year-old state police officer because trick estimate is to become a part of the fiction. Here, get inside the 20-year-old walk around her, drive to her cockpit, and stand for
Waiting for him to wreck.
And I, and give him every benefit of every doubt, and just, oh gosh, there's one. You're not the one who ever lets anyone walk all over them, and this is the shows walking all over you. That's nice.
I'd push you down the hill. That sounds good. No walking all over you.
I'm making a stab thing, so I'll use this on it.
Stab?
Yeah, I'm making a steak.
Fucking rules, I always
That's cute. You can see out my nose. I would have book 60. You always have
You need better 2,000. This is how it goes up around.
Oh, I need a necklace. That's all you got. Pretty. Oh, look at the trees going up the mountain. That's all you can see. And they're starting to change colors too.
Her being tall, skinny, and like
Oh, don't do it. It's better that way. Oh, we got a home. I'm gonna show you guys.
The mom's gonna go off.
She's trying to eat me right now. I'm not touching it. Stop.
Not even on anymore.
Everybody down in Cumberland, Kentucky came out that day to see poor Billy's trial.
So Billy's on trial. What are they trying for?
We're
getting married, Sunday.
That's not against the law.
She looks so proud holding
It's
Billy's
against the law to get
child.
someone pregnant.
When they brought Billy to
As a judge.
It's not against the law. He can't try him for anything.
he held out a bowl of Bible.
Tried for rape.
But what if they're over 18? It doesn't say anything about them being under 18 years old.
Don't claim it like being over 15 or 15.
Well, what if they're over 18?
Well, then I guess he can't do anything.
We'll see. So why are they saying this?
Mark.
What?
You can't outrun the long arm of the mountain. No, you can't outrun the long arm.
Dude, I'm just asking which one.
You asked too many questions about one little phone.
I'm just, looking.
Under curiosities, what killed the cat, Mark?
How did you kill it? You've killed plenty of cats in your time.
Yes, I have.
James, go ahead. Don't tell me I have any Randy Travis. Wouldn't need that.
Train bound for nowhere.
That's the
Met
kid.
up with the camera. Both too tired to sleep. So we took turns staring out the window at the darkness.
Oh, okay.
So you're really a lesbian.
Oh, baby. But you do a good job.
Leslie thought so.
I'm working on your face.
Are you still videotaping?
How much time you need to give me
Blanket. Blanket.